Hey guys, and welcome back. This is going to be my second video now on the Sigma 500 f4DG. This is going to be based though on image quality, as in what's coming out at the back of the camera, how good is the lens performing in the real world. So I've been using the lens recently for sports photography, in particular football. And it's looking pretty good, I have to say. I can't pick up a fault on the lens at all, so I'm pretty chuffed with the whole thing. So what is my initial thoughts, having the lens for a few months now and using it on the job? So basically, have to say it handles really well. Obviously, you need to be using a monopod or a tripod in particular. You can use it handheld, but you're going to get tired if you're shooting sports or you're shooting a match, or if you're shooting wildlife. Obviously wildlife, you definitely need something to support the camera with. But if you're doing sports, you can get away with it for a period, but then your arm's going to fall off. So don't even go there. It's not worth the grief. A simple monopod is what I used for the majority of the photos that I'm going to show you in a moment. I did use a couple on a tripod, and I'll mention which ones I did. I shot the moon, obviously in broad daylight. So that one was with a tripod, and yeah, we did a couple others as well. But I'll explain all that as we go along, just so you get a rough idea of what the settings were and how the setup was with the camera. So I'm going to show you about 5 different images today. I'm going to go through some wildlife shots. They weren't really wildlife; they were taken in a zoo, but you get the idea. So we're going to have a look at the detail it's been picking up. I'll also be showing you some shots that I took at the football, like I mentioned before, in quite tricky light. So some of them, I was pushing it. I was pushing the lens and the camera to a limit, which I'll explain all of that in when we get to the actual image itself. Okay, so one of the first shots I want to show you is this picture of one of the goalkeepers just after they've struck the ball, taking a goal kick, and as the goalkeepers put their foot through the ball, all these little rubber particles throw up in the air. This is because it's an AstroTurf pitch, so it's called a 3G pitch, I believe. These little things made of rubber, and basically as you get a lot of kind of explosions of these little particles, they do make for quite interesting photos. So what I did here was I focused on the ball, locked it all up, and I just waited for the goalkeeper to go through. A bit of a machine gun fire burst mode, and as the goalkeeper came through and kicked it, we got this kind of explosion. So I haven't cropped this. This is, as you see from the Nikon D4 sensor, so it's a 16 megapixel sensor. But let's have a look as we get a bit closer. So here you can see it's still pretty sharp, and we can really get down to reading. Basically, you can even get to see the Adidas part here. You can read that on the bottom of the shoe. The depth of field is extremely shallow. This was shot at f4. I've got my notes here. So yeah, this was shot at f4, ISO 2000 at 1/2500th of a second. So it's pretty quick. But yeah, you get the idea. I mean, I would be happy with that. It was getting pretty dark. The lights were dropping. This particular stadium is renowned for having terrible light. So it's a tricky atmosphere. It really, really is to shoot this type of image. But apart from that, you can see the detail elsewhere. Up here, for example, this is looking really good. The detail in the shorts is really good. So yeah, I mean, it's a very shallow depth of field. Okay. Next football image. Here you can see, let's just zoom in a touch more. Okay, so here again, I've not cropped the image. This is a full-size shot. Light's dropping here even more. And what's interesting about this particular picture is that if you're not used to shooting at 500, if it's a new focal range, and you're like, well, what can I actually achieve by having such a far distance reaching lens? To give you a rough idea, this shot is approximately 60 to 75 meters away from my shooting position. And that's what I got out of the camera. So this was actually, the goal kick was taken, and this chap was about to head the ball. So it's quite far away. Depth of field here, you can see these guys are, I would say, a couple of meters in front. These guys are a couple, this certainly is nearly next to them, but this one's maybe 4 or 5 meters back, and they're already starting to go quite blurred. Again, this is shot at f4, basically because of the amount, or the problem with the light, so I'm having to go as wide open as the lens can take me. Let's zoom in a touch. You might find in this shot a little bit more noise than expected. So yeah, it's still pretty good for 75 meters away. I mean, here you can see the water droplets from the head. You can see the teeth are pretty sharp. He's even got wrinkles in his face. So as far as I'm concerned, for 75 meters away, that's pretty good. This was also done before any auto-focusing fine adjustment. I just got it out of the bag, stuck it on and went for it, and it was pretty much on as is. So yeah, there you go. Those are the 2 football shots I'm going to show you. So a super telephoto lens like the 500 is particularly appealing to wildlife and sports photographers, and there are some other genres which this lens is great for, but these are kind of going to be the 2 mainstays. Here we've got some pictures from a wildlife park in Gibraltar, which I was doing one of my workshops, and in fact the first picture, this one, was shot on one particular workshop, and the next one of the same parrot was shot on another workshop day. So the lighting was very different. One was very overcast, and one was actually quite early in the morning, so it was just generally dark. I don't know if you know Gibraltar at all. It's a big rock. The sun rises over here, sets over there. The wildlife park is over here, so by the time the sun comes up, you know, yeah, it wasn't quite the right time for it, but we can't move the sun around, unfortunately, as photographers. That would be a really good thing. So the first one I'm going to show you is this parrot here. I'm just going to zoom in a touch, in particular around the eye area. So you can see here that the detail is absolutely superb on the eye. This was shot right through a wire fence, which I'm going to show you another picture of, which will explain this. This parrot would have been a good 7-8 meters away when I took the shot. You can see there's lots of sharp detail in the skin area, feathers around the eye is great. The eye itself is absolutely super sharp. Again, due to the low light, I shot this at f4. The amount of vignetting, I just want to talk about that quickly. So if we come out a touch, this is the full picture. You can see that there's slight vignetting, and I've given this a slight edit, but I haven't touched the vignetting, I haven't touched the sharpening, because I didn't want that to happen. All I've basically done is given it a bit of a colour, because it was a bit of a dull, horrible day, and I wanted to show you some nice pictures. But basically, yeah, there is a slight vignetting going on, but you would expect that with a 500. You know, you can see it round here at f4. It's not a huge amount, but it's there. As soon as you get near the f8 area, it disappears. It disappears. So it's negligible. If that's anything that bothers you, then you can get around it anyway. So it's not a major situation. But yeah, it looks amazing. You can see the sharpness in the feathers around the eyes. I mean, I can zoom in a touch more. You can really see how you do. Again, I should maybe have done this using my Nikon D800 with a 36 megapixel. And in fact, I'm taking another group to the wildlife park quite soon. So I'll switch bodies, take a couple more shots, and probably I'm going to try. I'm not a whiz at YouTube or anything like that, but I'll try and upload some raw files for you guys to be able to download them if that's if you want to see it. Okay. So let's leave this one. I think this one speaks for itself. It's pretty sharp. The next one I'm going to show you is, for me, it's my favourite shot to show you how sharp this lens really is and the depth of field that can be achieved. The shot here that you're looking at is that same parrot, but now it is against that fence which I was shooting through in order to take its portrait. I think if you look and if you imagine how long a parrot's leg is, you know, from its base of its foot to the underbelly of the feathers, you can see that the feathers are pretty much completely blurred, which is great because the focus here is all about the foot, the claws, and the wired fence. So it's a bit of a captivity shot, this one. Let's zoom in a touch, and you can really see the detail here in the paws and the pads. I mean, it's amazing to think that this guy has has got this amount of detail in his small little feet here. You can see the wire cabling here is super sharp, but the depth of field is crazy shallow at f4. And to be honest, again, only due to the light, it might be worth me taking another shot here at around f8, just to show you guys exactly what you've got. But again, at f8, you are going to be bringing in the feathers and maybe not isolating the actual foot itself. But apart from the actual image, I mean, this particular image for me just shouts about the sharpness of the lens, considering the lighting conditions and everything else. So yeah, it was ISO 1000, it was at f4 and at 640th of a second. Moving on, let's check this image of one of my students. Luke, if you're watching this video, thanks for being such a great model. I thought I'd used it. Why? Because I thought it was quite an interesting shot, but I like the way it shows the depth of field here. Again, it was shot at f4, wide open as possible, and I focused on the foot just in this area here, or hand, or whatever that is. I believe it's a hand. And you can see how quickly the metal railings slowly disappear and blur out into the background. So it gives it, it's a good example of the depth of field, again, that the lens can produce. Let's move on and take another look at a bird, a shot again through the fence. And here we've got this particular side-on portrait. The reason why I chose this particular bird, and I've actually got 3 images of this bird, I couldn't really choose which one I preferred, so I got all 3. And the reason why I've chosen it is because it's quite a small bird. It's quite a small bird, which means that we are, again, we're not cropping this. This is the full-size image. So we're zooming right up and into this little chap. And I wanted to show you how close we can go into the eyes and look at how shallow, again, the depth of field is here. You're losing the beak and the eyes there, and the head on this thing is, minute. So the detail in the feathers is quite good. It is a bit hazy. Again, shooting through the fence, I'm sure hasn't helped this situation, but I wasn't allowed to get in the fence, I'm afraid. And again, shot at ISO 1000, relatively quite gloomy grey day, not particularly amazing day for photos, or especially for wildlife animals. And here is another one which I do like in particular. I think it's a better pose because he's staring right down the camera. Let's zoom in again around the area of interest. So we've got, no, ignore that. The area of interest now is this area here, and in particular the eye. Again, I think the image speaks for itself. It's not the best lighting conditions, it's not the best day for it, but it certainly gives you a rough idea. I could have gone into the beautiful Mediterranean sunshine any day of last week and taken a picture of a seagull or the partridge that we have up the rock, or a monkey. I could have shown you all these lovely things in perfect bright sunlight. I don't think I need to do that. If you're going to be spending this much money on a lens, you know it's going to perform in great light. You want to know, is it able to perform in tricky light? How does it help the camera absorb all that information? And I think here is the answer. It's a pretty much nailed on shot here. So one thing which was really impressive with this lens was the speed of focusing. When you're looking at something so far away and you're moving from something that's, sports are moving so fast all the time, and you're going from one focus point to another focus point, and that might be 30 or 40 meters back to front, sometimes you're thinking the lens is going to struggle here. To be honest, it doesn't. It's really good. And it's, I would say, on a whole football match that I shot, maybe it was having a bit of problem focus hunting maybe once, push twice. But again, with the low light coming in and waiting for the floodlights to come on, this is going to be a natural occurrence for most lenses, if not all lenses. Another thing on focusing is that how silent it was. But this is definitely a wildlife thing, not so important for sports photographers, but for wildlife people that are getting close to the birds and stuff in particular, who are very scatty, you don't really want a lot of noise. So the hypersonic motor is absolutely brilliant in the lens. You're going to absolutely love that if that's your thing. And the reason why I've got this lens here with me today, this is the Nikon 70-200 G2 ED lens. So this is not the brand new one that came out last year. This is the one which most people probably owned if they did own a 70-200, the VR2. This for me is probably my go-to lens for capturing a sharp image. If I want to get a sharp image of a portrait or something like that, I'll go down this road. And I have to say that I was very impressed that the Sigma was, if not quicker or just as quick as focusing as this lens, because this is a beast. It's very, very quick to focus, and it probably did itself a lot of justice, and probably the Sigma kept up to speed with that, which I was quite surprised. And thinking again that obviously it's a bigger lens, you know, there's a lot more elements to move around. Another thing which a lot of people might be thinking is, does the lens show any chromatic aberrations? I have to admit, I haven't found any at all, which, you know, I've been using it on and off for a good couple of months, and I was surprised, but it'll probably be there somewhere in some sort of shooting example, but so far, non-existent. Another thing which is really important for lenses is how good is the bokeh. As we know, the bokeh is the outer focus area behind your subject, especially when we're looking at portraits or you're doing a nighttime shot and you get all these little orbs of light. Those are very attractive. You get a good lens will often have great bokeh. This particular lens is decent, is very decent. I'm going to be putting up some more examples of this on a later video, and I'll be showing you what I mean by that. But it was quite good to see, especially when portraits of the footballers, you know, you're getting a good, decent amount of bokeh coming out of this lens. So I think that's about it, guys. There's not much more to say. If you invest in the flagship lens from a company like Sigma, who at the moment are pretty much taking the world by storm with their latest range of lenses, you know, you're going to be getting good value for money. And I've been reading a lot of reviews from other photographers who have used this lens, and it's fair to say nobody has a bad word to say about the lens. And also, most people are actually saying, save yourself $2,000 or $3,000, pounds, or whatever it might be, and go and buy yourself this lens, because versus the Nikon lens, versus the Canon brands, they're doing much better. They're actually producing, if not better image quality, better handling, and for $2,000 to $3,000 less per piece of glass. It's a no-brainer. Next month we'll be doing a head-to-head 85mm 1.4 shootout with the Nikon and the Sigma version. This should be a nice thing because Sigma have released this cracking lens, Nikon have a pretty much a heavyweight, you know, so let's see what we can pull off. Hopefully we'll be able to see some good differences between the lenses. Okay guys, that's it for this video. Thank you very much. Hope you found it informative and beneficial. Stay tuned for some new things coming out next month. Subscribe if you can. Like us up, that'll be great, and we'll be in touch soon. See ya.